How do you have a career in the arts? My approach has been learn as much as you can about as many things as you can, and I've never been unemployed.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to Making It with me, your host, Terry Woolman. I really appreciate all of you every week joining us in these fascinating and amazing conversations with incredible artists and people who make art, which I really just enjoy and love and support. And this is one way I get to shine the light on some people that are doing remarkable things, not just in art, but in their lives. I want to remind you can find all of our episodes on entertalkmedia.com, Spotify, and go to iTunes also under podcast and look up Making It with Terry Woolman. And if you like what you hear, subscribe. It's free. You can download and stream for free. And there are many more conversations like the one that you're going to hear today. I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the entertainment business. That includes music, and today our focus is not just on music, but on film. And my guest with me today is filmmaker Barbara Bentree. Let me tell you a little bit about Barbara and the film that we are going to be talking about today, which is called Dave Grusin, Not Enough Time. Dave Grusin, Not Enough Time is director Barbara Bentree's first feature film. Audiences may wonder, how did she manage to gather an Academy Award-winning production team for her first big documentary? In her mind, the quality of film had to reflect the extraordinary beauty of Dave Grusin's music. In addition to being an award-winning film director, Barbara is a multiple award-winning vocalist musician. She started filmmaking by creating educational films, music videos, and documentary shorts before tackling her film about Dave Grusin. One of her most fascinating music credits was being part of the production team of the Mickey Mouse Club TV show, where she auditioned and cast Ryan Gosling, Justin Timberlake, Kerry Russell, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears in the show, to name just a few. Bentree is committed to telling stories that are positive and uplifting. She's a filmmaker who brings light and inspiration to the world, no matter what the subject matter. In her words, music brings people together, and we are all searching for a way to connect to each other right now. This film is not only a tribute to the extraordinary life and career of Mr. Grusin, it documents the golden age of television and film music. Barbara Bentree, welcome to Making It.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm happy to see you. It's been a while. And full disclosure, we've known each other for a long time. And have...
decades.
Yeah, and have supported and encouraged each other along the way.
Absolutely.
Shared what we know, and what we're learning in the various fields that we become experts in. And it's been really a joy to watch your journey. I don't get to see you close up anymore because you moved to Santa Fe years ago.
Right. Where
you've really thrived as an artist, not just as a singer and a performer, but also as a filmmaker.
Yeah, I lived in Los Angeles for 23 years, and I loved every minute of it, and got some just extraordinary training and resume and connections, and really was just so happy to live here. And then we just decided about 15 years ago to move to Santa Fe, and it's really, as my partner and husband, John Rangel, we can hear ourselves think there a little bit better. And so it's been wonderful because when we were in Los Angeles, we were working on everyone else's projects and gaining all this experience. But since we've been in Santa Fe, it's been an opportunity for us to focus on our own creative juices and getting our own ideas out there. And that's been definitely a shift for both of us.
Did you envision when you were a little girl growing up in Minnesota, or when you were living in Colorado going to music school, and I believe that's where you studied,
yes,
that you would, and you were studying music,
yes,
as a classically trained jazz musician. Did you envision filmmaking as part of your journey?
It's really funny because I found some video. In fact, it's in my very first little film, which was called Should You Go? And it's about whether or not you should go to your high school reunion. And I actually took a high 8 camera, which is just like practically a dinosaur now, to that reunion. And I'm not going to tell you how many years ago it was, but it was a long time. And I interviewed people at my high school reunion just thinking, oh, someday maybe I'll use this. And it sat in my closet for literally a decade or more. And then I went back again and had a better camera, and I found those same people and I interviewed them. And then I went back, and I literally have now people aging over 40 years and their high school graduation picture. And it's fascinating to see the shift in what is important to you when you just graduate from high school and where you're now taking care of your parents.
Right.
Or your kids are grown up and gone to college, and then just to watch the aging in people's faces and the evolution of technology and filmmaking. So that's been a really interesting project, and I'm not done with that one yet. It just keeps happening,
I really look forward to seeing that, and hearing more about it along the way.
Yeah, and just all the things that you do when you go to your high school
Sure.
reunion. It's all of a sudden you got to lose 25 pounds in
Right.
2 weeks.
And your face hurts from smiling so much.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I'm long overdue for a high school reunion. I've gone to a few back in Miami.
Yeah, and I think it's, it's questionable, whether it is a good experience or not,
Yeah.
I found it to be really wonderful.
I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to talk about you first, but just to let our audience know, I just want to give a little information on Dave Grusin.
Sure.
Who is the topic of this documentary.
Yeah.
And I want to do that just so people stick around and hear this whole conversation. If you already are a fan of Dave Grusin, which I am and so many of us are, you're going to stay with us. If you're not, let me just tell you a couple things, and then we'll circle back to the movie. Dave Grusin has been nominated for 38 Grammys and won 10. His label, GRP Records, founded with partner Larry Rosen, received 80 Grammy nominations. Grusin has scored more than 60 feature films, written the music and composed the theme songs for over 20 network television shows, and has been involved as a producer, composer, and pianist on over 100 record albums. Composing credits include Maud, Gidget, Beretta, It Takes a Thief, Saint Elsewhere, The Graduate, 3 Days of the Condor, On Golden Pond, Tootsie, The Fabulous Baker Boys, and The Firm. I'm just giving you the short list right now. So if that alone is not enough, and before we go back to a little bit more about your early years, Barbara, I just want to ask you a question about the movie. If those credits alone are not enough, what made you want to make this film?
Well, I think, first of all, we got to know Dave. He also lives in Santa Fe, and we did a benefit concert with him, and had been a great admirer like you. I think it was GRP Records that I really got to know Dave's music, and that was really sort of the gateway label for me to jazz. I had been more into pop and, I don't know, Broadway musicals even, or things. And then GRP was really the way that I started listening to jazz, and now that's pretty much all I listen to. So I felt a great homage to that evolution in my own music styling. Another thing was he is also a graduate of the University of Colorado music program, which I am. So I grew up going to Grusin Hall and doing my senior recitals there and everything. So,
and they just honored Dave with an honorary doctorate recently.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, he's been in my, and then I have another great story. This is a really weird story. I had an a cappella vocal jazz group when I was in Los Angeles called Terra Nova.
Yes.
And we won the Hennessy Jazz Search. And we're kind of, we had a little buzz at that point, and it just so happened that GRP Records was looking for a vocal group to sign to their label, and Dave came and scouted our group and wanted us to sign right there. And of course we were like, oh my God, this is so great. Mm-hmm. And I won't exactly explain what happened, and I'm still not, I think I've blacked it out somehow, but it didn't work out. And they went on to sign New York Voices, who have gone off and had a wonderful career and everything. And so that was a little disappointing, shall we say. I'll put it mildly.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. That's not what I was supposed to do with Dave Grusin. It was this film. So I share that only from the standpoint of for all of us, when you have those incredible disappointments in your career that you just feel like you're not going to recover from, you just don't know what the universe has in mind for you. And so here we are 35 years later, and I've done this film, and this is, I'm not going to say it's better, but it's certainly, I can think this is what I was supposed to do with him.
I think you as well. I think that's pretty clear from having had an opportunity to see the film. And by the way, it's beautiful. I was very moved, and also it's well made. I mean, it's not just a great story about a remarkable artist. It's a good movie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I worked really hard on that and had just I'm not going to take credit for that. I had the most amazing team of people that rallied, and much of it was because of Dave, that people were just like, I want to be a part of this, I want to help, and felt that they wanted to express their gratitude for the impact that Dave had made on their careers, and also just because of his incredible reputation. And I just feel so grateful. Got to work with some amazing people.
There's a quote in the movie that actually speaks to that, about when you mention to any musician, Dave Grusin is interested in doing something with you, the automatic answer is yes, because of the high level of excellence that he is known for. He's loved and respected as an artist, a composer, a pianist, a record producer, a record label owner, an innovator, all of those things, as well as his fly fishing and and making sure that he always stays connected to the mountains and to nature, which is important to you as well, and to me. But I had a wonderful experience of working with Dave on an HBO movie, If You're Not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast, and it was producing a song with him, which was just an incredible, beautiful experience, but a song that he and Alan and Marilyn Bergman wrote, and Alan sang, and it was the theme song for the movie. Point being, David asked me to make some calls to put the band together. And everybody I called, regardless of how famous they were, they didn't even need to hear the end of the sentence. I would just say, I'm working with Dave on this movie, and he asked if I would call you, and they go, where and when? That's the only questions they asked.
Yeah.
They weren't concerned about any other detail.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I had an experience of that too, in that, Dave is so modest. He didn't even have a website before the film. And so our film has sort of become the website for Dave Grusin. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting to get emails from all over the world, Australia, United Kingdom, Asia. Everyone's like, where is this film? When can we see it? How can we see it? And I got an email one day from a gentleman named Chris Jenkins who said, I really want to mix your film. And I was like, well, we're already done, kind of, and and I think it turned out pretty good. And he said, no, it was an email saying, I really want to mix this film. And I was like, let me look him up on IMDb. Okay, he's got 3 Oscars. And I was like, oh, I think we can work you in, and so we redid the whole film, and he just felt this desire. He said, no, if it's Dave's film, it's got to sound great. Mm-hmm. And I want it to, and Dave, he had worked with Dave on The Firm and the Fabulous Baker Boys, and sort of Dave helped him get his start, I would say. Mm-hmm. And then he's gone on to do Batman and Superman and Mad Max and everything else. So again, it's just this feeling of appreciation and gratitude and wanting Dave to be happy. And then it was really great because we scheduled the sessions so that Dave, during a time that Dave was in town, and we said, so Dave, you want to come by and, just check it out and see Chris and everything? Goes, yeah, I can come by for a couple hours. He ended up staying for 2 days.
Of course.
And actually helped mix the film, which again is just like, whew, oh, good. He's going to be happy with the mix because,
right.
It would be very uncomfortable for me if we were ever in a theater together and he was like, oh, it sounds terrible, So that was really exciting. So again, we've just been pinching ourselves this whole time. The people, the caliber of people that we've been working with and the experiences that we've had and the learning curve has been terrific,
Well, even the caliber of the people who make cameos in the film,
Yes.
There's Ernie Watts and Lee Ritenour and Tom Scott, Don Murray, who is this fabulous engineer that's worked with Dave through all the GRP records and films. Their stories are heartfelt and these are also people that don't make up things about people. They don't exaggerate. They don't need to. They've worked with a lot of celebrities, and you can just see the love and respect and appreciation, and really the appreciation, the gratitude that they have for Dave for
Absolutely.
all of the things that they've done together. I could see it in their eyes. I can hear it in their voices and in their words.
Well, and I think that that's something about GRP Records that was very interesting too, in that, as Harvey Mason said, GRP wasn't really about trying to make hit records.
Right.
He said they were just choosing people who were extraordinary musicians and building careers. And there is a segment in the film where it was the GRP All-Stars Japan tour, and it's like the who's who of before they were famous,
right.
Of people, and it was sort of at the beginning of their careers. So it's not even just, what Dave did and what the label did, but how all of these people that were a part of that record label have gone out, and the, ripples in the pond that they've all contributed to just amazing, recordings and film projects and television, and it's really an extraordinary thing, and it's in that sense, I feel that the film is somewhat historical, and that this is a time period that is very unique, when music was made live in the studio together, and there's actually a segment that is on the cutting room floor I'm a little disappointed about, which I had a map of all of the recording studios in New York City during this time period, like late 70s, 80s, and they were like so many within a few blocks. It was like, CBS and all these, and they were creating all the work, and these session players were just walking down the street with their, acts, and just like, oh, I'm doing something on the third floor over here at 9:00, and then at 1 I'm here, and then, and it was just this convergence and this feeling and this energy. And now if you look, there's only about 2 of those studios left. So it's a real time period, that, and people like Russ Titleman that's in the film just said, there's something really magical that happens when people are live in the studio together, and it's getting more and more rare, for a variety of reasons. We have much more, everyone has home studios. It's like, everyone does, but you can't have a whole band over to your house for every session.
Right.
So it's really changed, and I think some things have gotten better, and I think some things I miss, about that.
As a filmmaker and as a musician, do you feel part of your mission is to just keep shining the light on music and art?
Definitely. But even more than that, I have some missions. I have some main causes that I want to focus on. And actually, Dave is this film about Dave was an opportunity that came up. But going forward...
well, right, because, some of your other mission statements in life is you are an environmental activist. You are certainly involved culturally and politically. You definitely are a feminist. Yeah. And you always have been as long as I've known you. But you also, you make a conscious decision to work with as many women as possible on all of your projects. And I commend you for that. I think it's great.
Thank you. I have a project right now that is a very, very hardcore feminist, and I'm working on it right now. But in general, I want to, lift up as many women as possible. I think that films made by women are different in their subject matter and their approach and their, I'll tell you absolutely, a film set is different that has even any women on it, but if there's a predominance of women, it has a different energy, it has a different focus, and I think that our world needs more feminine energy, whatever that is. I just think we need to be in there, having a voice and affecting what's happening on the planet in a bigger way.
Do you feel the doors opening more, or are you just one of many who are forcing them open?
Well, it's interesting. I went to a really neat thing with Gloria Steinem and Alice Walker and everything, and Gloria Steinem said, we're having this movement, and it's come, the Me Too movement, things like that, and it's like anything where people are rising up, whether it's the civil rights movement or feminism, environmentalism, it's like when people are starting to make a move, there's another force that's usually clamping down pretty hard. So it's one of those times, it's a little volatile right now because
it's extremely volatile right now.
Yeah, and the same thing is happening with environmentalism, and before that it was civil rights, and that's still ongoing. So I feel encouraged on some level, and the conversations are certainly shifting and things are happening, but it doesn't mean it's easy by any means.
So as much as I want to talk about your early childhood, and we're still going to, I want to stay on this for a minute. You have been winning a lot of awards at film festivals with this movie. Yeah. Can you brag for a moment? Can you name a few of the awards that you've been receiving?
Sure. I would be happy to. Well, we were at the Bozeman Film Festival, and Dave won a Lifetime Achievement Award. We got a first place award at the Flickers Rhode Island Film Festival. We were in Knoxville, Tennessee, and got the Audience Choice Award for Documentary Feature. And then just last week we were in Albuquerque, and we got the Best New Mexico Film. So pretty much everywhere we've been, something's happened, which has been really great. And we have a lot of festivals coming up. The next month is going to be really fun. We're going to be in Washington, D.C., Scottsdale, Arizona, Minneapolis, and we're going to Rome, Italy.
Great.
Miami and Copenhagen. It's really kind of exciting, really.
Is there a list of where you're going to be on the website so that people maybe can go to the film festivals or possibly see a screening in a particular city?
I do have, but they're kind of racking up just in the last few weeks, so thank you for that prompt. I will put it out there. The best place to keep up with it is on our Facebook page. I'm doing some detailed announcements, and still working on Twitter, and it's not my favorite.
And what's your Facebook page address?
It's facebook.com/GrusinFilm, and our website is also grusinfilm.com, so you can find out all things Dave.
And if you didn't write that down right now, when you're listening in the car, be safe while you're driving or cooking or whatever. We'll list those links on the artist page on Intertalk Media, so people can just hyperlink and go directly to it.
Perfect.
Tell me about your early childhood. Your mom and dad and siblings, and what your early life was like. I know you were immersed in nature.
Yeah. I grew up in a very, very small town, Austin, Minnesota. And I have to say that I've only come to realize how extraordinary my childhood was recently. I mean, I would say within the last decade or two. When I was living there, it seemed really boring. It was a small town and not much going on. One business, it was Hormel Meat, was the meat packing plant, and so everything sort of centered around that. And my parents were very busy, and but it was also an era when there were no locked doors. And I loved animals, always have loved animals, and I had a horse, or several actually, over years' time. But we could literally, I could ride my bike out to where my horse was being kept, and I spent from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m, just messing around, and doing things. And it was rural. We would actually ride our horses to another town, like 6 or 10 miles away. And in Minnesota, there are all these little towns. And it was like being real cowgirls. And I had a gang of like girlfriends who rode horses. And we were just kind of really gutsy, dirty,
Yeah.
shoveling.
Hands in the mud.
Right. And just, and a little wild, jumping logs, with our horses and taking them in the river and swimming and, things that when our parents found out about it, they weren't real happy, but we didn't even tell them most of the time. I mean, I should be dead probably many times over.
Right.
We'd have races, there was like these long gravel roads where it's like a mile before there's another road. And so you just, go as fast as you can till the tears are like coming out of your eyes. And I feel that as a young girl, there was something really powerful about that. There's something really fortifying about being on a really powerful animal and being in control of them. And yet horses are also fabulous mirrors in that you have to be cool, It's like you have to. So I just feel now that it's an era that maybe even doesn't exist anymore. And it was, riding, there were fireflies and, it was so sensual. Everything was so sensual. And I noticed that it really informs a lot of my writing now. And almost everything, well, they always say, write about what you know. So these images and ideas and stories are definitely what I am writing about now. And in that way, I think you see it in the Dave Grusin film, too, because nature will always be a part of everything that I write, because it's a part of me.
Well, I mean, even the opening of the film is this beautiful shot of nature, and with this incredible piece of orchestration of Dave Grusin's for the song "Some Children See Him." And as soon as I heard it, I knew the song because I just know the arrangement, you know, and it's exquisite. And I thought, what a magnificent choice visually and sonically to invite somebody into this world.
Well, I think also, people know Dave maybe as a jazz musician, and if you go see jazz documentaries, they're usually pretty urban stories, right? So I made that choice deliberately, like, no, this is different. And I think that because Dave grew up in rural Colorado and, has a ranch in Montana now, I would like to think that maybe that's also why his music, that there's something in there that is his inspiration, his, music DNA, if you will, is nature-based, and so is mine. So maybe that's why I like his music so much. I don't know. But I certainly like him as a person because that's important to him, as it is to me. Yeah,
and to me, and I found the same. I think that was the biggest treat for me in having an opportunity to collaborate with him, was that it was just so comfortable. It was respectful. It was inspiring. We both had each other's back. We both supported each other. We both pushed each other to the finish line. But I could tell how deeply he cares about people. And that's what I resonate with. I mean, there are a lot of really talented people, many who we've worked with over the years who are not that pleasant. They're arrogant, or there's a sense of entitlement, or they're just not respectful, and life is too short.
I think those are some of the hidden benefits that I could have never imagined in doing this project. Being around someone who has quite literally the most extraordinary career I've ever seen. I mean, there are levels that I'd be happy to talk about, but and the incredible modesty that he has. And on top of that, like you said, everybody just admiring Dave. Who do you know that's had a 60-year career in businesses that are as volatile as film and music, and no one has anything bad to say about you. On a personal level,
Right.
just as a human being,
Yes.
it has been very inspiring for me to be around that kind of intention and reputation, integrity, quality, So that was something I didn't, and it's changed my life, I would say, as an inspiration. And then just the quantity of work, when we say, I can't really do that, it's like, oh yeah, well, look at what this guy did. And, in any given year in Dave Grusin's life, he would be working on a couple TV shows, several movies, touring live in concert, doing arrangements for other people, and producing record albums. And this went on for decades. There was a period of time where he was literally flying from Los Angeles to New York and back again every single week, because the label was in New York and the film and television business was in California. And it's just the output was really actually surprising to me. In fact, that's where the title comes from. My wonderful husband, John Rangel, who's a producer on the film, created a timeline of all of the things that Dave did, and we're just about to put that on the website, because when you look at it, it's unbelievable. I mean, this exponential growth of projects, and we were showing it to Dave once because we were like, this isn't possible. This isn't possible for one person to do all of this work. So we were looking at it, and Dave was looking at it, and he's going, oh, yeah, that thing, and everything. And we finally just said, Dave, how did you do all of this? It's impossible. And this is before the internet even, too, a lot of the work. And he just said, yeah, there was not enough time to do everything. And it was because there was so much coming at him. And then we were like, okay, I think that's the title. And now it's really, there's not enough time to tell all the things that Dave Grusin did.
Well, even in the intro, just basically tip of the iceberg on credits. There is a quote in the movie that Dave said, I need more time than I'll ever have.
Yeah.
When he's sitting at the piano, working on something.
Right. And I think, people who are functioning at a really high level, and, I don't care who it is. Marcus Miller said the same thing in the film. It's like those people that, something hits and it's really hot. There's not enough time to even just experience what you're experiencing, like to really take it in. It's like you finish that and you're on to the next thing. You finish that, you're on to the next thing. You finish that, you're on to the next thing. And I think there's also there's some really wise people in the film who talk about that, and how we all need to just slow down a little bit and be in every moment. And Dave does that, I believe, through his trout fishing, and all of us need to find that place, whether it's internal or external, a sense of sanctuary and a sense of balance in your life. And it's really been fun, because at the screenings, occasionally, of course, the musicians are nuts about it. They just love it because they know this time period. But then occasionally someone will get dragged to the film that knows nothing about Dave Grusin, and they're like, okay, I'm going to go. And they come up to me after the film and they say, oh my God, I was in tears at the end of the film. And that has been really shocking to me, actually, because it wasn't our intent to make an emotionally moving movie. But I think what I hear from people is that it's such an inspiring and positive story about, and I think it's Dave's music. I mean, it's just, if you want an hour and a half to go into a theater or at home, or I hope you can hear it in a good sound system, and with time to not be interrupted, because it's just, we don't have very many experiences that are just pure joy, where it's like, oh, listen to that music, oh, look at those visual images, where it's really enriching, and people are very moved by it, which has been a surprise and a delight, actually, because that's really part of our bigger mission. I want to create things that uplift the planet there's plenty of darkness out there. We don't have to make more of that, So my mission is that everything I make is going to make someone, and that doesn't mean there won't be drama or adversity, but that the summary feeling that you have is like, the world's a better place for it having been made, I guess.
Well, it certainly is uplifting. And, and I think that's a good intention to go through life with. I mean, that's what you were doing as a musician.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Yeah. And, one of my friends who has been a guest on the show as well, Keb Mo, when I joined his band for a year and went on the road, he reminded me, he said, we're in the joy business. We're in the happiness business.
Yeah.
People work really hard. They're just doing their best to get through life and make the mortgage or the rent and raise the kids or keep some food on the table. And this hour and a half when we're on stage or sitting in front of a movie, they're there to just embrace life and passion and have a good time. So our job is to be happy, and then I'm not saying not experience other emotional sides of life, the ebbs and the flows and the contours, but to really to express and contribute joy to the world. So you are continuing to do it through your filmmaking, clearly. Back to like growing up. So we got you to running horses through rivers and, racing on gravel and fortunately not cracking your head open. What was your musical training like? Did you get support from the family?
No. I mean, yes and no. I took piano lessons till I was 16, and then...
Were you taking voice lessons as well, or you just
a little bit.
Okay.
And then I went to college and enrolled. Of course, my parents were that Scandinavian, you got to have something to fall back on, and thankfully, I probably did get a degree in music education, and it did save me a lot. I was always teaching and getting involved, and I love working with kids. But I was one of those people that took 6 years to get their bachelor's degree because I was in and out. I did musical theater for a while, and I sang in a top 40 band, and, much to my parents' chagrin, oh no, and, but I did finish, and I finished well, and I think I was a very happy teacher. I was a choir director for many years, and then just kept kind of getting distracted. I ended up kind of leaving one of the best jobs in Colorado and went out to Los Angeles and was singing for a while. And so, yeah, it's been a very interesting life. I always say that I was sort of the black sheep of the department, No one really took me seriously, and because I wasn't singing opera. And then...
But you weren't lazy.
No, and I should tell the story. So Marilyn Horne came to the University of Colorado once, and she did a master class, and everyone was pulling out all their operatic chops and singing for her and stuff like that. And my teacher said, okay, well, you don't really have anything prepared. Why don't you just sing My Funny Valentine or something? And so I did. And Marilyn Horne is a very interesting singer. And after we were done, this is obviously... I still remember all these decades later, so it must have made a big impression, because she said, okay, I'd just like to talk about everybody that's on the stage. And she said, there's one person here today that really communicated while she was singing. And everybody's looking at, the superstars of the thing. And she goes, it's Barbara, whatever. And it was just one of those, we all have those moments where something comes to you from afar that you weren't expecting. And look, I'm still hanging on to that story.
That's a good one to hang on to.
Yeah, and you know what? My husband is a fabulous teacher, and he walks into every single day of teaching saying, you never know when you're going to be someone else's angel. And Marilyn Horne was my angel that day, and I think I've carried that inside of me my whole life, feeling like, yeah, I got something, and we can all be that for each other, and so I share that even. I wasn't expecting to talk about that today, but, it's we can all just pull each other up, and, a high tide lifts all boats, and that's really something that I try to live by. I'm in an organization now, New Mexico Women in Film. I've been a board member there, and that's one of our, I won't take credit for that. That's our president's motto for all of us, as women, to lift each other up. And I think as human beings, we should do that.
So what was it like, since we're reminiscing right now? So you finish college and you get in your car and drive across the country or halfway across the country to LA, with a suitcase of clothes and a dream.
I literally came up to a gas station, and this was before Google, and I didn't have a Thomas guide, and I literally said, "Can you tell me how to get to Hollywood?" Because that's where my one friend was living. And I think about that now, and I'm just like, oh, God.
Practice.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Carnegie Hall. Joke.
Yeah, right.
I'm remembering my cross-country trip from Miami to Boston to go to music school, and then packing the Honda and moving across, and really with just nothing but passion and hunger and a dream.
Yeah.
Two guitars, an electric and acoustic, and my juicer, and just a couple of books.
I know.
Yeah, and so what was it like when you got here, and you did that again too? I'm thinking about when you moved to Orlando to go do this show that who knew what it was going to be or not, but it was the Mickey Mouse Club for Disney, and you went and had the opportunity. As a matter of fact, I remember you invited me for an interview at Disney to see if I could get involved too.
That's right.
As one of the music producers, and thank you for that. They didn't hire me, but I would have gone to Florida with you for that because it seemed like an interesting opportunity. Yeah. And I knew anything with you was going to have integrity and quality. So, but like I've watched you do that. I watched you come back, and then take it again to Santa Fe. Like each of those times, particularly like the first one when you came here to LA.
Yeah.
Was it overwhelming? Were you just fearless? Were you did you have to get a job waitressing, or did you start singing?
Totally. Or? Yeah, and I remember I was so green. I remember I went to one of those cattle call auditions where there's like 1 million people, and I was so like off the boat that I wore like sandals, and it was like there was a dance, component. And I think I got the job because I could do a cartwheel. So you can tell what kind of a gig it was, it's like something crazy. And I think they were just looking at me and going, okay, she's in sandals. She's not in dance wear, but she did the cartwheel. She's got a good attitude or something. But, so then it was an incredible process of just finding out, oh, that's not what you wear, and that's not how you, and, it was great. I feel like I've done so many different things that I think that's what makes me a good producer, is that I know a little bit about just about everything, and now I really do after doing this movie, but I didn't really, I didn't get to the point of being really accomplished as an actress or a singer per se. Maybe in my vocal group I did, but because I was too interested in too many other things, to be that, you just have to be that single-minded, obsessive person and deal with a lot of disappointment sometimes. And I was always sort of like, this isn't going well. I think I'll do something else, and maybe that's been good or not.
Well, are you like a shiny object kind of person, or
not that bad?
You seem focused,
but if I go to a certain point and if I've put several years into something, and just not having that breakthrough, and also I'm pretty, I think, self-aware. Like, there's a lot of that was shocking to me when I came out here. You can be hot stuff back in Minnesota or Colorado or something, and then you come out here and you realize, oh, there are tens of thousands of people that are as talented as you are. So then you start saying, okay, what do I have that's unique? And for me, it was really working with kids. And ironically, having my degree in music education, I got called to do the Mickey Mouse Club, I think, because I was a certified teacher and they knew that the kids would be well taken care of, because I had been trained in that way. And that's not always the case on shows, so, and then that opened up a whole lot of other opportunities. And so, yeah, it's never what you think it's going to be,
True.
I thought I was going to be a singer when I came out here. And I did have some really great singing experiences.
Yeah, I mean, your vocal group that you were in, Terra Nova, got a lot of attention.
It did. It was really exciting.
Yeah. And I went and I was at that concert, at the Hennessy Jazz Festival.
Yeah.
I believe at the Hollywood Bowl. I don't remember where that was.
I was at the Playboy Club.
There was, yeah.
That was the championship that we won. And we beat out all these instrumental bands, and it was crazy,
right.
That was, one of those moments, like, but again, that goes back to my choral background. We were really good choral singers, but we did it, vocal jazz, and it was, I have to say my hat's off to Randy Crenshaw, who did the most amazing arrangements ever, and that was really fun. And I did a lot of business for the group, and so that was another training experience of like marketing, and I even worked for a record label for a little while, Nova Records. Remember that was out of Bon Appetit or something? That
was the label that I was first signed to.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, so...
That's probably is that how we met? I don't know.
We possibly met through Nova. My recollection is I met you through Randy Crenshaw. Who, I think I actually did some work with you guys. He wanted like another producer's ears or something. I just have a recollection of all of you singing for me in my little West LA apartment or something, and just
Randy is somebody. Boy, he's
great.
I mean, he's as good as it gets.
Yeah, and we've had him on this show. So if any of you are curious about what it takes to be one of the top session vocalists in the world, check out
guy.
That. Yeah, he is.
And see, that's what I didn't have that. My hat's off to him. But he just kept doing it.
Yeah, and he still is doing it.
Yes.
And, but one of the things, since this show is about creating and maintaining a career, as an artist in whatever aspect of the industry you're in, even if it's not as an artist, as an attorney or publicist or graphic designer, promoter, you mentioned like having, working for a record label, your openness and willingness to learn business. Like you to me never seemed to be a person who rejected it or fought the idea that you needed to also know how to get paid or to invoice somebody or to show up at 8 o'clock in the morning at an office to take care of some business, because you always went in with this idea that I'm going to do the best that I can, whether I'm singing on stage or in a studio or whether I'm helping somebody type up a report. But your intention or you have this ability to say, what can I learn from this experience, and how can it help improve not just your career, but the career of people around you, that you also work with and love and respect. And, I was the recipient of some of that along the way, with us. And we still continue to do that, sharing information and things that we have learned about how to handle yourself in the business world. But was that ever like an effort for you? It was a little bit for me to embrace business, not to, wish I didn't have to do it.
Yeah, I think what's really exciting now is that you can teach yourself almost anything. I mean, I feel like I have an MBA. I mean, I've created corporations and LLCs and, done business plans, and I think I've gotten pretty good at it. But I've never gone to business school. And it's the exact same thing with this filmmaking. I taught myself how to edit on Final Cut Pro. Now everyone tells me, and I probably now have to learn another better platform. Oops. But anyway.
The ever-changing landscape
right.
of the entertainment business.
Exactly. But what's really cool is that there are tutorials for everything out there. Yeah. And for me, that is really becoming a great way to learn, because, I think if you go to college and you're in a big class, that can be great if you like that environment. But for me, there are certain things that are harder for me to process and take a little longer. And I love being able to go back and watch things 20 times if I need to. Whereas if you're in a lecture class thing or something, if you miss it, it's like, oh, and people go on. And I think I would have, anyway, I really want to encourage everyone to not be afraid to jump in, roll up your sleeves and ask questions and find, there's so many resources out there. You can teach yourself anything now. I mean, it's amazing. And online learning, I think is really great.
And ultimately, I find artistically, the more I learn about other things outside of being an artist, immersing myself and embracing learning about business, it makes me a better artist. I mean, I've got a deeper pool to draw from.
Yeah, and you don't have to have quite as many people around you. I mean, it's interesting how I'm sort of still can't believe we did this whole feature film, and it's basically John and I, but incredible people. But I did a lot of the work myself, and things like transcribing all of the interviews. There's probably 100 hours of interviews, and a lot of people would just send that off and have a professional transcriber do it. Yeah, you can, and it probably would have cost, I don't know, $10,000 to $15,000 or something. I did it because I wanted to watch the footage again, and I wanted to know where every single word was so that I could go back to it. And also, when you're interviewing the person the first time, you're thinking about so many things while you're doing it. And I wanted to just sit and look at their eyes and look at, what they said and make notes. And I would have had to watch it all again anyway, even if someone had done the transcription. So again, I think that, roll up your sleeves and will I do it again? I don't know about that, but it was really good for the first time. And again, you start to appreciate the doing all the different jobs. Right now I feel like I could produce films, I could do legal clearance, I could do location management, I could do catering, you name it, I could do it now, So it just keeps increasing the possibilities, like you said at the top of the show. Just how do you have a career in the arts? My approach has been learn as much as you can about as many things as you can, and I've never been unemployed, or I've never not had work to do.
Before we get to our closing questions, I wanted to ask you, what lessons about writing, producing, and life in general have you learned along your journey? And also, what's changed about your perspective as you've gotten older?
I'm much more interested now in making a difference. I think there's something that hits every person sort of midlife, that what's it all about, Alfie? I'm much more concerned. Well, I've always been a content person. That's why I got into education and everything to begin with. And but now I feel like I want to have a bigger voice, and I want to. Again, I'm a little concerned about what's happening on the planet, and I would like to, put my efforts into trying to help. And so that sort of informs almost everything I do now. It's just like, how can I come up with something that is going to be a positive help? And I'm mentoring a lot of people now, especially young women with their projects. Trying to be more generous in every way, I think it all starts with you, we're, be the change you'd like to see in the world. And I'm really trying to live that. And it's not always easy, but, I would say that's the driving force in what I'm doing now at this sort of Act 3 place in my life,
There's a quote in the movie that Dave Grusin said, and I want to share it before we get to the two closing questions. I have a gratitude factor that I can't even express about being allowed to have this kind of life. It extends to people who gave me opportunities, and it extends to musicians with whom I've worked. My closing questions for you are, what does making it mean to you, since that's the name of this show? And can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
Making it, for me, really means the actual doing. In fact, one of my hesitations about being on the show at one point, I think when you asked me, is like, I haven't made it. I mean, I'm still, and so I chose to spin it as like, no, I'm making it. Like you make cookies, you make your bed, I'm making it, I'm making things, I'm doing things, but I don't really feel like I'm ever, and I think Dave Grusin is an example of that. It's like if anybody could say he'd made it, and yet he's still, everything he does, he brings his full intention and hard work and modesty and all of that to it, and it's been incredible inspiration. What was the second part of the question?
3 tips for success that have driven your career.
Gratitude. I have been recently waking up every morning and just taking a moment to be grateful that I'm still alive and that I'm in a nice warm bed and have food to eat and air to breathe. And, it's a meditation, if you will, even though it's not particularly formal. And I think if you wake up with that perspective and everything is fine. Everything is fine. I feel like I'm so fortunate compared to, 99.9% of the people on the planet. And I think we forget about that a lot. I have to say, coming to LA, even seeing like the homeless situation here has been a bit upsetting to me.
It's overwhelming.
And again, just being grateful and trying to help. And I would say listening, and being kind. And that's probably 4 things, but just those are my own personal missions, is just being someone people want to work with. Like Dave, it's like that's been really inspiring because there's a lot of talented people out there, but you want to be someone that people want to work with.
And my final question is, at this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
Network. Network. When I was in college, I was kind of like, every single person you meet, you just never know when and where. Networking wasn't, in our generation, wasn't really a big thing, but like I see people who now are in like their freshman year of college and they've got portfolios and they have this whole, database of people and now you will know people your whole life. So network and keep good records of everyone you meet.
Barbara, thank you for spending the hour with me.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's great to see you and have you in my studio.
Always.
The name of the movie is Dave Grusin, Not Enough Time. And again, I'm with filmmaker, musician, Barbara Bentree. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It sure has.
Everybody keep your eyes and ears out for this movie. It's just beautiful. Thanks for spending the hour with Barbara and I, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woolman.